All right. Should we move on to the next song that we're going to be listening to for today?
Yeah. So we can move on to maybe Dang Show's Slowly Slowly.
I'm sure slowly, slowly. All right.
Fantastic. So I guess without further ado, here is Dang Show's Slowly Slowly.
All right.
آسته آسته یواش یواش اومدم در خونتون. یک شاخ گل در دستم، سر راحت بنشستم. آه به خدا آن نگاهت از خاطرم نرود.
یواش یواش اومدم در خونتون، مجنون و گریون دلنگرون اومدم در خونتون. یک شاخ گل در دستم، سر راحت بنشستم. از پنجره منو دیدی، مثل گلها خندیدی. آه به خدا آن نگهت از خاطرم نرمد. آه به خدا
So that was Slowly Slowly by Deng Shui. I hope I pronounced that right.
Dude, I think you definitely pronounced Slowly Slowly right, dude. I don't know. I'm no expert, but I think you pronounced Slowly Slowly right.
Hopefully. All right. So as per usual, the song started out with a lot of speaking, right? There wasn't a lot of music.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us generally what that was about, and also just the song in general.
Yeah. So Dang Show is like a modern way of like trying to bring in classical Persian literature into like a modern song. In all of their songs, they have someone speaking first, and the whole point of it is that all of the things that they say has a relevance to the song, but it's also relevant to Persian poetry. So within this context, it's very like lovey, but it's not explicit, and it's very I would say it's mostly influenced by someone like Sadi, who has a lot of metaphysical poems and who always like looks into love and to like explain things. And in this case, I thought it was very similar. And they use like poetry to start the poem, but it's not actual poetry. It's like a poetry that they've been influenced by, and they like twist it, and then they have a relevance to the song. If that makes sense, I hope it does.
Right. So they like basically kind of like take a poem and like make a twist for it just to suit like whatever song that they're trying to like push out, right? Right. Yeah. And you said that all of their music starts with like something like this?
Yeah. All the ones that I've heard anyway, they always have someone start with speaking and then the song starts. Which I think is pretty cool. You don't really see it in Persian music. The only band I've seen do it is actually Dang Show.
Yeah, okay. You kind of guessed my question. I was just about to ask, like, are they the only people that do this? So I guess since that's answered, the next thing I want to ask is this band particularly popular, and like this style of music, is this popular in Iran?
Oh yeah, it's really popular. Like whenever you go to like someone's house, or you're like at a barbecue, or you're just chilling, like there's always a Dang Show song like somewhere in the mix. You know, everyone loves it. A lot of people listen to it in the car when they're driving. They like put the windows down and they just listen to Dang Show. It's like a feel good kind of vibe. And a lot of their lyrics are they're just really well written. Like it's something that someone old can listen to and someone young. Like it's not too cheesy, it's not too explicit. It's like just right. And I thought like their lyrics are really beautiful. Like one of the lyrics that are actually in the song is یک شاخه گل در دستم سر راحت بنشستم از پنجره من دیدی مثل گلها خندیدی, which means like I came down to like your doorsteps with a rose. I sat down and I looked up at the window and you were smiling like a rose. Okay, I guess in English,
Wow.
but in Farsi it's less cheesy, I promise. But yeah.
That's really interesting. And would you say that since they basically kind of adopt lots of poetry, is there still like a very traditional aspect to the music that they make?
What do you mean?
So like the poetry that they take, so it's not like they are writing poems and
no, they're not writing.
Right? So they're taking like other poems and then just making adjustments for it for the song.
Yeah.
But like the poems that they take, are these like traditional poems? Are they modern poems?
I would say they're influenced by traditional poems because a lot of traditional poems focus on the aspect of trying to find something, doing something greater with your life. A lot of them refer to love and being drunk with the idea of something, and you can definitely see that in a lot of Dangsho's work. Now, I'm not saying that they exclusively are only influenced by classical poetry, but from what I've listened to, I'd say they lean towards that.
Can you maybe talk to us? Ali just asked about classical poetry. Can you just maybe talk to us a little bit more about Persian poetry in general and possibly the significance that it has had throughout Persian culture and society and history?
Yeah, for sure. So one of like the most famous poets in Iran is Hafez, and a lot of people use his collection of poetry. They like put it into a book, and this is like how it's influenced our culture. So a lot of people will take this book and think of like a question and open it as like sort of like a divinity thing, and then obviously a poem comes up, and that poem is meant to like answer your question, if that makes sense. And so it's like something that's meant to come true, and a lot of people do this, and a lot of people actually believe in it. And in everyone's house, in every single Persian household, you will see a Hafiz book, and a lot of people actually try to memorize poetry in Iran. So it could be a poem from Sadi, Hafiz, Maulana. A lot of people try to memorize it, and it's like not like a hierarchy thing, but if you can do it, it's like, whoa, like that's really impressive, because it's like super old, and if you can like say it and you can recite it well, it's like, oh, like your kid's smart. It's kind of like that. But yeah, a lot of people believe in it, and like even for Nowruz, on that table for Sofi Hafsin, a lot of people put the Quran down, but like my family puts Hafiz's book down. Like that's how much respect it has, and that's how much people actually care about it. And one part of Nowruz is actually you take Hafiz's book and everyone thinks of a question, they open a page and read like the poem out loud. So I guess it's quite fun. Some people really believe in it. Some people are like, oh, it's just kind of cute.
Oh my god, this is like
so interesting.
Not to make it like this isn't meant to be like sacrilegious or anything, but it kind of sounds like poetry is like gospel in Iran.
Yeah, low key, yeah. But
because like another thing that I just like thought of randomly when you were like telling me that story, it's very much, at least this is how it is like back at home, because you know Malaysia is also what essentially is a Muslim country as well. So like when we speak about the Quran, it's like, oh, you know, if you have a question, just open like the relevant surah and, you know, you'll find what you need. And, you know, obviously it's like another kind of like similarity in the sense of like memorizing the Quran and becoming, what's it called, like a Hafiz. I'm not sure if Hafiz is the right word, but
I get you. Like, well, here's the thing. Hafiz actually memorized the Quran. That's where he gets his name from. Hafiz means memory. And, yeah, so he read all of it and he memorized the whole thing. And then his poetry is it's not religious at all, but a lot of people say it's influenced by the Quran. How like whether that link is super strong or not, I'm not sure, but that's definitely where he got his name from, and that's definitely where some of his poems are influenced from. But you know, he's all about like a metaphysical being and finding love and what does that mean for you and like the different opportunities that are going to come into your life. So it's honestly, if you have any question, you open it like the page, you'll see something in it that's like relevant to you. So a lot of people end up believing it because like, oh my god, he's really speaking to me. So
yeah. I see what you mean. That's really cool. And like previously we listened to like a song from Shajarian, and now, you know, we're talking about poetry. These are all like very traditional things, like an old way of singing, and, you know, like old pieces of art, like old poetry and stuff like that. Would you say that in Iran, people are still very much like in touch with old culture?
I think the old generation definitely is. And like, say if your parents are really into it, then your kids are as well. But the younger generation, I would say they've kind of lost touch with that. Like, they don't really care for it as much. Like, me and my sisters were thrown into it because my mom's side of the family is like super into poetry, and like we had this thing when we were kids that if you would like memorize like a poem, you'd get like a certain amount of money to like make you learn it.
Nice.
Oh wow, bribe to learn poetry. I'm into that.
So it honestly like just depends on your family. But if your family's like super into it, then you will be too. But if they're not, then sadly you do lose that bit of like traditional element.
And is there in school, is this like poetry taught, or are you meant to, do the teachers give you assignments to memorize the poetry, and is this stuff kind of put on to you guys at all?
I actually don't know because I was never in an Iranian school, so I never like got to experience that. But from what my mom told me from her experience was they'd encourage you to read it, but it wasn't something that was like super taught. Like they tell you about it and then you'd go like do it with your parents, and like my grandparents were like super into it, so they made her learn, but it wasn't like something that they super like enforced it at school. But that was like then. I don't know how it is now, so don't quote me exactly.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right, sweet. So that was Slowly Slowly by Dang Cho. Yassi, why don't you tell us what we're going to be listening to next?
I guess we can listen to Vayazin Haram by Iham.
All right.
So without further ado, here we go.